Hi, Virgo. I want to say something before the warning and before everything that follows the warning. That is the actual content of this message. Because the word urgent and the word danger and the be very careful can produce in the person receiving them either the useful response or the counterproductive one. And I want to set up the useful response before the content arrives. That could produce the counterproductive one. If it is received without this framing first, the useful response to a warning is heightened discernment, the specific and grounded increase in the quality of attention you bring to the situations and the people that the warning is pointing toward without the anxiety or the hypervigilance. That warnings can sometimes produce, when they are received without the grounding, that the useful response requires. The counterproductive response is fear, the specific and consuming form of anxiety about danger. That narrows the field of available responses to the situation the warning is describing into something smaller and more reactive than the full Virgo capacity for discernment would produce when it is operating from the grounded position rather than from the fearful one. Receive this with discernment, Virgo, not with fear, and everything that follows will be useful rather than only alarming. Welcome. There is a person in your current orbit whose energy is not what it is presenting itself as in the direct and visible form of how they appear in the interactions you have with them and in the spaces you share where their presentation is the primary available evidence for the impression you form of them, when the direct interaction is the only form of the evidence. What is beneath the presentation is different from the presentation in the specific and significant way that the beneath being different matters for how you navigate the connection between you going forward with the full awareness of the difference that this reading is making available to you. I want to describe the difference between the presentation and what is beneath it in the most specific and useful terms available from the reading of the energy, because vague warnings are not warnings at all. They are only unsettling, and unsettling without specificity produces the fear response rather than the discernment response that the useful warning requires. The presentation is warmth and alignment in the specific and practiced form of someone who has learned how to present the qualities that produce trust and closeness in the people they want trust and closeness from, and who applies those learned qualities consistently and effectively in the spaces where the trust and closeness they are seeking to produce are available from the people present. The warmth is real in the sense of being genuinely felt by the person receiving it, but it is not organic in the sense of arising naturally from who this person actually is and what they genuinely feel toward you. It is applied as the tool that produces what they want from the interaction, rather than as the expression of what is actually present in them. When they are with you, I want to say something about the distinction between applied warmth and organic warmth, because it is a distinction that is genuinely difficult to perceive from the outside. And that is designed to be difficult to perceive by the person who is applying the warmth in the full understanding that what is being applied needs to feel organic to the person receiving it for it to produce what it is designed to produce, which is the trust that opens the door to the access being sought. The difference between applied and organic warmth is not visible in any single moment of the warmth, because the warmth in any single moment looks the same from outside, whether it is arising naturally or being applied as the tool it actually is in the specific moments of its application. The difference is visible in the pattern. Over time, in the specific form of warmth that appears and disappears, in correlation with what is being sought, rather than in the consistent and unconditional form that organic warmth takes when it is arising from genuine care and genuine interest in the person rather than in what the person can provide. Through the trust the warmth is producing. Applied warmth is conditional on the access being available, and organic warmth is not. And the pattern over time reveals the conditionality, if you are watching for it, in the specific and patient Virgo form of someone who tracks patterns rather than reacting to single moments of warmth or its absence. Is interest, not the interest of care or the interest of genuine connection or the interest of someone who wants to know you better, because knowing you better would be good for both of you in the mutual and generative form of two people who are interested in each other for the genuine reasons of connection and care. The interest beneath the warmth is the interest of access, the specific and directed form of interest in what you have or what you know, or what your proximity to them enables. In terms of the specific access they are seeking, and that the warmth is designed to produce in the form of your trust in them, which is the door to the access they are actually interested in. I want to describe the specific nature of what they want access to, because the what determines the specific form of caution that is warranted and the specific areas of your life that the caution applies most directly to, rather than the general and consuming caution. That applies to everything and produces the fear response rather than the discernment response. They want access to your information in the specific and personal form of what you know and who you know and what your connections and your standing in the spaces you share would allow them to access if you were to share it in the trusting form of someone who believes that the person they are sharing with has the aligned interests that the presentation of warmth suggests they have, the sharing of your information and your connections and the access your standing provides is what the applied warmth is designed to produce in the specific and patient form of someone who is building toward the access through the sustained application of warmth over a period long enough to produce the trust that the sharing requires before it will be offered in the form they need to serve the interest that is beneath the warmth. This is the specific danger, not physical, not dramatic, but real. In the specific and practical form of your trust being used to serve interests that are not aligned with yours. In the person who is presenting as if they were aligned through the sustained application of the warmth that produces trust as the door to the access they are actually seeking. I want to speak about why the too late in the title is present, because too late is a phrase that can produce either the useful urgency or the paralyzing anxiety. And I want to give it the meaning that makes it useful to you, rather than the meaning that paralyzes. Too late refers to the moment when the trust has been extended far enough and the access has been given completely enough that the reversal of what the access enabled becomes significantly more difficult than the selective withholding of access that this reading is recommending now. Before that moment has arrived, you are not at that moment yet. The too late has not arrived, which is precisely why this reading is arriving now. In the window between the beginning of the access seeking and the completion of it, in the form that produces the consequence that the too late is referring to, the window is open and the reading is arriving in it to give you the specific and actionable awareness that the window requires for you to act from it before the window closes, in the form of the too late that follows, when the access has been given completely enough to produce the consequences that this reading is specifically designed to prevent by giving you the awareness now while the window is still open and the prevention is still available in the form of the selective withholding that the discernment response enables in the specific and practical form of what being very careful actually looks like in this specific situation, rather than the general and consuming caution that careful sometimes implies when it is not given specific content and specific application. Being very careful here means being selective about what you share with this person specifically in the quiet and undramatic form of someone who simply does not offer the specific categories of information and access that this reading has just identified as the actual objects of the interest beneath the warmth. You do not need to withdraw from the interaction entirely or to make the caution visible in the form of a changed manner or a declared boundary, or any of the visible signals that would announce to the person that you have become aware of the difference between the presentation and what is beneath it. Simply do not share the specific categories in the ordinary and natural form of someone who is simply not offering those particular things. In those particular conversations, without explanation or declaration or the visible signal of a changed approach, that would make the caution itself the subject of the interaction. The second specific form of being very careful here is to observe rather than react to the applied warmth in the interactions you continue to have with this person after this reading has given you the awareness of what the warmth is doing, and what it is designed to produce. Observation from awareness rather than reaction to warmth is the Virgo mode of navigating this in the most effective form available, because the Virgo capacity for precise observation is exactly the right instrument for the specific situation where the difference between the presentation and what is beneath it is the thing that needs to be tracked, rather than any single dramatic event or visible inconsistency that would make the tracking unnecessary, because the evidence would be obvious. The evidence here is subtle and requires the Virgo mode of observation that notices the subtle over time in the accumulated form of a pattern becoming clear rather than a single moment of obvious inconsistency, revealing everything at once. Observe in the patient and grounded form of the Virgo who tracks patterns, and trust what the tracking produces over time as the most reliable available evidence of what is actually there beneath the presentation that this reading has already given you. The awareness of, I want to speak about what you will notice. If you are tracking the pattern rather than reacting to single moments, because the pattern has specific and observable features that the Virgo observational mode is specifically well suited to notice over the course of the interactions that continue between you and this person after this reading has given you the awareness to look for them. You will notice the correlation between the warmth and the proximity to something they want access to. The warmth will be more present when the conversation is in the vicinity of what they are seeking, and less present when the conversation has moved away from it into territory that does not serve the access interest they are managing toward. The correlation is the pattern, and the pattern is the evidence of the applied versus organic distinction I described earlier in the form that is visible in the pattern, rather than in any single moment of the warmth, which would not reveal it in the obvious form that a single moment can reveal. You will also notice the steering, the specific and subtle way that conversations with this person have a direction they return to, regardless of where they begin, and that the direction they return to is the direction of what they are seeking access to from you specifically. in the patient and incremental form of someone who is building toward, rather than taking directly, because the direct taking would require the abandonment of the warmth presentation that is still being maintained as the tool producing the trust. That makes the building toward possible. Notice the steering, and notice where the steering consistently returns. And you will have the confirmation of what the interest beneath the warmth actually is in the specific and actionable form that the Virgo observation produces when it is operating from the grounded and aware mode that this reading has established as the platform for the observation, is to protect your inner circle from this person's access in the quiet and practical form of not facilitating the connections between this person and the people in your life whose trust you hold and whose information you carry in the form that would become accessible to this person through the facilitated connection with the people in your inner circle who do not yet have the awareness that this reading has just given you about what the interest beneath the warmth actually is. Your inner circle is yours to protect, and the protection happens quietly in the form of not introducing, rather than in the dramatic form of a declared exclusion that would require explanation and would produce the visibility of the caution that is most effective when it is invisible to the person it is being applied to. Virgo, the discernment you have is the specific and right instrument for exactly this situation. And I want to say that directly before I close, because I think Virgo sometimes doubts the reliability of its own perception when the perception is picking up something subtle that the visible evidence does not yet fully confirm in the obvious form. That would make the perception feel justified rather than only intuited, without sufficient evidence to support the full confidence of the Virgo in what it is perceiving. You have probably already sensed something about this person in the quiet and unconfirmed form of a perception that did not yet have the evidence to be named directly or acted on directly, without the confirmation that the perception was accurate rather than only suspicious in the form that suspicion takes when it is not yet confirmed by anything concrete enough to justify the full confidence of acting on it. Trust the perception, Virgo, in the specific and confident form of someone who knows that their perception is reliable when it is operating in the grounded and non-anxious mode of discernment rather than fear. The perception was picking up something real, and this reading is the confirmation of what the perception was already offering in the unconfirmed and quiet form that perceptions always take before the confirmation arrives, to make them fully available as the basis for the grounded and effective action that the discernment response produces when it has the confirmation It needed to operate at full confidence. Huh. Be careful, Virgo. In the specific and grounded form of discernment operating at full confidence, from the confirmed perception that this reading has just provided, not fearful, careful in the Virgo form of precise and grounded navigation of a situation that requires exactly the instrument you have for exactly this kind of navigation. You have what this requires, Virgo, and now you know what it is being required for.